It's the last fight between humanity's top heroes and their demon enemy. But this time, we're not following some superpowered hero. Instead, our main guy is just a regular foot soldier doing his job. Being the low-level grunt he is, a stray laser suddenly zaps right through his chest. The hit's so strong, he doesn't even try to fight it, just lets it go through. And that's the end of his story. In his last moments, he looks around at his fallen comrades, lying dead all over the place. The battlefield's intense. The so-called greatest heroes are locked in a fierce battle against humanity's biggest enemy, the Liquidator. Among them are 4 brave fighters, each with their own unique skills and flashy powers. Then there's guys like our dude, foot soldiers, just thrown in as cannon fodder. They're basically like background characters with no lines. Their only job? To die. He feels pretty worthless thinking about how little he's actually done. War. If only he'd been born with some kind of talent. But no matter how strong those heroes were, they didn't stand a chance. The Liquidator cut through them like they were nothing. Seriously, one strike was all it took to take them down. Turns out that monster was just messing with them the whole time. Humanity's fate was already sealed, or at least that's what Gray Lee thought. Then he remembered his heart was already torn to pieces, and yet he's still alive. Next thing he knows, he's standing in the middle of the ruins. In front of him is this all-powerful being who doesn't explain a thing. The mysterious guy says Gray's body has already healed, but the crazy part is, Gray healed himself using powers he had buried deep inside all along. The entity also says Gray is actually way stronger than the Liquidator, the same jerk who slaughtered all those heroes like animals. But he's not sure if Gray can even handle that kind of power. So for now, the entity loans our guy a bit of his own energy, just enough to take down the Liquidator. Back in the real world, Gray's sword suddenly glows with this mysterious energy, a gift from the all-powerful being. Without hesitating, he puts it to the test to see if it's the real deal or just smoke and mirrors. Turns out this power hits hard, hard enough that the Liquidator actually acknowledges Gray. As Gray goes in for another strike, bam! He's sliced in half like the rest. Blood gushes from his bisected body as the Liquidator, weirdly enough, praises him again. He's the first person to push the Liquidator far enough that he had to go all out. But the Liquidator is in for another surprise. Gray isn't done yet. That blackish energy is fueling him. The lower half of his body, which was gone a second ago, has now reformed, made entirely of dark energy. Bro is going full Black Clover mode with that massive sword of his. It's a sight to behold. To think that someone could actually make the Liquidator waver. The enemy sees no other option other than to throw up a honeycomb shield to guard his sorry self. Gray doesn't even look human anymore. He crashes down with his colossal blade, and the impact sends literal shockwaves through the air. The shield shatters into glittering pieces, and Mr. Cocky ends up eating with the full brunt of the hit. Now the bastard is seriously wondering if the thing he's fighting is even human. Hell, he's not sure if Gray is even alive. Meanwhile, our boy is asking himself the same thing. But right now, all that matters is the fight. And yeah, this freak is tough as nails. But our boy is also determined to do the math and break this bastard down. He's not stopping until this menace is erased. He throws another wild slash, and this creepy etch starts bleeding this creepy golden blood. In response, the freak busts out some next-level jutsu and sprouts celestial wings. Looks like he's messing with time itself. Day turns into night with the moon glowing like a spotlight from the gods. It's pretty impressive, and Gray admits it, but not impressive enough to shake his confidence. He goes full throttle, launching a preemptive strike straight at the Liquidator's neck. But surprisingly, the sword doesn't pierce. There's some weird shield around him again. Then he starts yapping nonsense that flies straight over my head. Apparently, within this plane of true dusk, nothing can hurt him. Or at least that's what this bastard claims. He tells Gray to look up at the sky to see just how deep and really he is. While our boy looks up out of curiosity and sees a blinding star-like thing glowing with insane intensity. Then boom! That thing crashes down like a damn meteor and obliterates Gray from existence. The Liquidator stands victorious, staring down at the crater left behind. But thankfully, that mysterious entity from earlier shows up again just in time to rewind everything and send our boy back into the past with an only mission, which is to save the world. By the way, that mystery man's name is Kronos. Apparently he and the Liquidator have some kind of history, but no one is telling us what kind. So anyway, cut back to our boy who opens his eyes in a peaceful green neighborhood right after his regression. It's quiet, calm, and honestly pretty damn photogenic. Turns out he's in his hometown, Renato Village. Not just his hometown, but the past version of it. He is almost 15 years in the past. Looks like Kronos kept his word. Gray's been sent back in time for one final shot at saving the world. Suddenly, a stinging pain crossed through his hand. When he takes a look at his hand, he notices wounds and bandages wrapped around his wrist. Now that he thinks about it, this was the time in his life when he was basically a punching bag for Belder and his gang. But with this new shot at life, it'd be pretty pathetic if he still ended up getting bullied. Then again, there's no way he could fight those guys head on. Bro is way out of their league. In hindsight, even beating the Liquidator sounds like a dream. Anyway, he's got to figure out how to deal with these bullies, or he's doomed to relive the same suffering all over again. Seems like bro can't catch a break. Or can he? He just so happens to stumble across the same that he's been dreading the most. Of course, it's Belder and his goons. Since they've been bored lately, they've been on the hunt for our guy, eager to continue their tradition of good old-fashioned bullying, like it's their new religion. They toss him a spare sword at his feet, ordering him to pick it up. Our boy stares at the sword, clueless. He still hasn't figured out what these goons are up to. After all, it's been 15 years, so memories are a bit hazy. Belder, meanwhile, assumes Gray is pretending to be clueless on purpose, so he's kind enough to remind him about their usual mock battles. Hearing that, Gray quickly tries to brush these pests off by pointing to his injured hand. He's grateful for the invite, but unfortunately he can't join because the injury hasn't healed yet. But it looks like bro can't shake these hobos unless he picks up the sword and fights. They even assure him the swords are totally blunt, so there's barely any chance of getting hurt. Gray, however, can't shake the feeling that injury is still possible. No matter how blunt the blade, it's still a lump of iron. One wrong hit in the wrong spot could book your one-way ticket to heaven. Well, he's got a point. One gentle tap on the balls and you'll be doubled over on the ground in unbearable pain. But these guys don't seem to get the logic behind Gray's words. Belder takes his stance, ready to strike. He hates hearing no from Gray, so he charges at him like a raging bull to start the duel. Gray was given time to grab the sword, but it's up and Belder is already charging at him. Our boy finds it ridiculous that this dude calls it a mock battle, while charging like he's pissed off at his own mother. That's when Gray remembers something a former military doctor told him. The reason his swordsmanship never improved was because of an injury he sustained as a kid. Now that he thinks about it, maybe this is the injury that changed his life forever and forced him to live like a runt. Belder comes crashing down with his blade, but Gray blurs away and dodges the strike. Seriously, though, even Gray himself is shocked that he managed to dodge it. Belder's face, meanwhile, tightens in annoyance at seeing such impressive agility. He throws another strike, which my guy dodges again. Then a quick strike aimed at his feet is also easily avoided. The bastard's trying hard to tag our boy. He's like a bloodthirsty man on a mission, determined to take his opponent down. But Gray slips through like a ninja on cocaine. At first, Gray thought Belder was just slow, but then he realizes that it's not the Belder who's slow.
Has gotten slow. It's he himself who has gotten faster. Bro is literally dodging every strike like he owes rent. Even Belder's goons can't ignore what they're seeing. It's like Gray is a completely different person. He might not have the body he once had, but he still has the memories of every battle he's fought. With all that experience mapped in his head, his body is basically on autopilot. He barely even has to try to dodge those strikes. Then Gray grabs the sword to keep this so-called mock battle going, which isn't feeling so mock anymore. Belder is drowning in his own ego, desperately trying to crush Gray under his blunt blade. But my guy had enough. He swings his sword for the first time. The sudden jerk from his powerful swing leaves Belder's hand aching like hell. That just shows how pathetic Belder really is. If Gray is being honest, he actually feels like the loser here, duking it out with such a weakling. But he also believes that Belder doesn't deserve an ounce of pity. He's the piece of shit who bullied Gray, took away his future, and caused all that suffering. So, with all due respect, Gray is going to make Belder taste his own medicine. On the next move, Gray effortlessly knocks the sword right out of Belder's hand, unarming him instantly. While Belder could only feel the humiliation, Gray realizes this dude is worse than he thought. He takes the opportunity to throw a jab, mocking Belder's incompetence with a sword. One single blow sent Belder's sword flying. Then again, being unarmed isn't a big problem. After all, Belder was the one who insisted these blunt blades were totally safe to use in a fight. Gray is going absolutely nuts, swinging the blade so fast it literally cuts through Belder's skin, causing blood to gush out as the gravity of the situation sinks in. Belder's knees lose all strength and buckle. Wait a minute. Gray thought he was using a blunt blade, so how come this bastard started bleeding? When he looks at his blade to confirm, he finds out it's indeed a blunt one. Though if it had been a sharp sword, this dude might actually be dead. Now, let's not get distracted from the situation at hand. Gray swings the blade precisely, knocking out multiple teeth and leaving Belder's nose bleeding like crazy. My guy is towering right over this bastard, giving him chills for life. It's always pretty amusing to see arrogant pieces of getting rendered into sobbing messes. Seems like this much is enough to humble Belder for the rest of his life. Oh well, looks like I spoke too soon. This bastard still hasn't learned his lesson. He orders his goons to get our boy and whip his ass until he's a total mess. The goons hesitate to step forward for obvious reasons. They literally just saw their boss get beaten like a pathetic dog, so it makes no sense to succumb to the same fate, even though they have the power to avoid it. One of the guys suggests they attack in unison to overwhelm Gray. The trio quickly leaps into action, surrounding our boy from every direction. Gray, however, is nonchalant as ever. If these guys desperately want their death wish granted, my guy is more than ready. Everyone leaps at him, intending to finish him right here. At first, Gray had an ounce of sympathy for these hobos, and had decided to spare them. But it looks like they won't stop until they learn their lesson. So, he gives these gutter goblins what they truly deserve. Not long after, their faces are swollen like a baboon's backside after an unforgiving face massage. Once again, Gray finds it ridiculous that these crying emojis in human form used to be his worst nightmare. He recalls this group is currently students of Syria's swordsmanship dojo. Belder admits they are students of that dojo, though they haven't been visiting lately since these Saji biscuits believe they were already powerful enough. Though that's pretty low standards for someone who's supposed to be strong enough. Not that Gray expects much from the dojo itself. He shows interest in joining the dojo, so he wants these goons to act as his referral. Belder refuses to fulfill the request. After all, he can't imagine the consequences once his master finds out he pathetically got his ass handed to him. Gray knows exactly how to deal with these guys. He merely swings his sword around to intimidate these suckers, hinting at the worst that could happen if they don't listen. Funnily enough, this little threat works wonders. Belder is not only humbled, but that beatdown gave him the speed of a cheetah. He literally speeds down the road to reach the dojo as soon as possible, even leaving his friends behind. A while later, they enter the town. As they walk, Belder expresses his curiosity why Gray is interested in joining a dojo. Turns out, this dojo has a recommendation slot for the academy. Our boy doesn't have to say more since he's sure Belder is mature enough to understand what his main goal is. One of the guys wonders why Gray even feels the need to join an academy when he's already powerful enough. Little do these shits know, my guy doesn't set the bar that low. He's got his own definition of enough. He vividly remembers the day all of humanity's heroes got slaughtered like pigs in the blink of an eye, and that was supposed to be the world's strongest lineup. Forget the heroes, even he couldn't scratch that bastard with all that mysterious power he had. Only God knows how much power will be enough to defeat that bastard. Though he wasn't completely hopeless back then. The moment he got those badass dark powers, he felt like an omnipotent being that could destroy anything. The thing that held him back was a lack of swordsmanship skills. He had been relying on a few tricks he learned from the Sword Saint. If only he had spent more time training in swordsmanship, just like the Sword Saint did, he's pretty sure he could have turned the tide of the battle single-handedly. This is likely why Kronos sent him here to grind his ass off until he's worthy to wield that dark, mysterious power again. A while later, we meet the master those goons were talking about. The group is getting an earful for picking a fight with a random civilian. And what's worse, all they got after challenging that civilian was a humiliating defeat. This intimidating woman is swordsmanship dojo instructor Syria. Belder tries to clarify they weren't actually trying to bully anyone, it was just a mere mock battle. The poor bastard ends up taking a devastating blow for his lies. A hit hard enough that he'd be on the moon with this one-way ticket. His goons are shivering in terror, wishing they could just survive this day. Nothing to be afraid of, guys. The stunt she just pulled was a little lesson she wanted to teach these fools. If they call beating someone unarmed a mock battle, then what she did also counts as a mock battle. She points her sword right over Belder's ugly face and expels him out of the dojo immediately. Not only him, but his goons are joining him too. With that, those pathetic goons take their pathetic loser leader and walk out pathetically. She immediately twirls around, sits on her feet, and apologizes to her new recruit on behalf of her former students who caused him a lot of trouble. My guy brushes off the apology. Back to business. She's heard he wants a recommendation to the academy, to which my guy affirms it. Since Belder and his second-rate team caused him a lot of trouble, she's willing to write a letter of recommendation for him. Though, before doing that, she wants him to prove his worth. Both contestants stand against each other, wooden swords in hand. Being the senior, she generously gives him the opportunity to strike first. And thus the exchange of blows begins. They move so fast that literally all they leave behind are trails of silhouettes from their fearsome strikes. All the while, Syria does her job, which is to assess our boy's capabilities. She can tell his swordsmanship is quite practical for his age. It's like he's been through countless battles before. Now it makes sense why those bozos got their butts handed to them by a single person. His style is mostly self-taught, but every so often his swordplay looks similar to what's taught at the academy. This likely means someone probably taught him, though his technique is still rough. One thing's for sure, though, he's got a lot of raw talent begging to be tapped and harnessed to its fullest potential. She's basically found a diamond in the rough. Now that she's assessed him, she decides to end the duel with the last blow she's about to deliver. My guy braces himself and effortlessly parries her attack. This macabre dance once again begins. Bro is literally parrying each of her attacks like he's allergic to damage. This prompts her to grow anxious. The lack of hesitation on his side is throwing her off. It's like no attack she tries can falter his stance. Hell, she even starts to feel annoyed at herself. To think she has to give her all in a mock battle that was only meant to gauge this young gun's capabilities. She gets overwhelmed to the point she starts feeling fear. For a moment, he looks like some demonic entity about to unleash something massive. After surviving the last swing from our guy effortlessly, she realizes it was just a wild swing. After that crazy swing, Gray starts to feel tired and his energy level drops. The woman sees him sulking and mistakes it for a weakness in his defense, so she lunges like a feisty cat, only to find herself checkmated right on the spot. Virgil's daughter from another universe is at a loss for words. Right as she thought she had found the winning move and was ready to strike our boy down, the tables flipped on her. The broken wooden sword hits the ground, while Gray finds himself stumped. For a second there, he found his way back to that same dark power he received in his battle against the Liquidator. The fact that he used a hint of that same power now means that he still has access to his abilities even after regressing into the past. But then it happens. An agonizing drawback engulfs his body in so much pain that he drops to his knees. He can't even hold himself to stand. While Sarya is alarmed at his condition and wants to help, even after using a fraction of his power, Gray realizes that his current body is unable to exhibit his abilities. Still, he musters the determination to stand on his feet again despite his body quivering. After telling her that he's okay, Gray finds himself lost in his thoughts. realizing he can hardly stand, which emphasizes just how efficient he's going to have to be with his abilities. Oh, he's also thinking about revealing the information about his power to the experienced swordmaster in front of him. Sarya just looks at him dead lost and confused. Meanwhile, our boy assesses the situation with a clear head and concludes that he shouldn't tell authority. She can help him get a recommendation to the Royal Academy of Swordsmanship, the best educational institution their kingdom has to offer. At the same time, surprisingly, she shares no interest in recommending him to attend that institution, adding that Gray is an unfit person for the academy. Her cold words stabbed him sharper than any blade. Gray starts beating himself inside, doubting his abilities and admitting that he's too weak. His final attack was the only remarkable thing he'd done in that battle. But wait, Sarya has not finished talking. She continues her thoughts, arguing that instead of going to the Royal Academy, the kid should instead head to the World Union Academy instead. What a plot twist that is! The revelation hits him harder than Truck-kun hitting his Isekai victims. Though the Royal Academy is their country's finest, the World Union Academy is the best in the entire world. The institution is deemed the pinnacle of sword mastery. Gray is at a loss for words because this same Magic Academy is responsible for producing the strongest battle squad, including the likes of the Sword Saint Amy. He immediately confronts Sarya, questioning if he's even qualified to attend a prestigious institution like that. Funnily enough, the girl destroys his expectations, pointing out that as he is right now, there's not a shot in hell that he's getting through the door. The Swordmaster knows that even Gray is wary of his shortcomings, especially when it comes to his pathetic state of a body right now. When it comes to the Royal Academy, the kid might be able to pull off a miracle because of his sword skills alone. But that's just not the case for the World Union Academy. So yeah, dude's screwed if he doesn't train his ass off. Even Syria is astonished. The kid has miraculous talent in his swordplay, and yet he's got a stickman of a body. Doubt is starting to creep in, genuinely making Gray worry about the monstrous opponents he'll have to face against in the World Union Academy. It's not exactly a walk in the park, and with his current body, that's out of the question anyway. Seeing his sorrowful state, Sara points out how he's quick to give up. Even though there are 9 whole months until the Academy's entrance exam again, being underconfident in his abilities, Gray thinks that even that time won't be enough for him. Despite her effort in trying to encourage him, even Sarya agrees that it's too little of a time. But even then, she offers him a chance. The Swordmaster wants him to trust her for the 9 months to come, because during this time, she's going to make him suffer through hell and back. Yeah. Something tells me she's going to hire David Goggins and make this guy run 3 ultramarathons and do 6,000 pull-ups. Anyway, Gray admits that though he doesn't want to suffer, he doesn't have any other choice. Declaring himself ready, he hopes that the Swordmaster will take good care of him. Sarya takes a liking to his forward determination. At first, you guys probably think it's a good sign that they're starting off on a positive note, but the atmosphere immediately switches to total fear as Virgil's daughter officially announces the beginning of his hellish training. Gray's agonizing trials began. He trained like Goku and honestly ate like him too. She really is putting him through a bulking phase. He also had to deal with some questionable food, but his teacher was unrelenting and put him through everything. Their sword duels continued the same, the goal of which was to hone his techniques. And then 8 months passed just like that. Congratulations to Gray for earning his shredded body after enduring that long training. Even Sarya is out here admiring his physique. Now that they've come to this, she's got nothing in her arsenal left to offer him. He's ready to go out into the real world now. But her easygoing attitude confuses Gray, because there's still an entire month left until the entrance exam. Virgil's daughter reminds our boy that he's going to be spending a lot of time traveling to get to the location of the entrance exam. That's why he has to leave early. As a final token of gratitude, Sarya hands him a bag of money, ensuring him an easygoing trip, taking care of his expenses for the month. Now that's a real teacher. As for our boy, he still doesn't feel good about the idea of leaving so soon. Her forceful approach saddens him because he thinks his teacher is pushing him away like he's a burden. Smiling at his answer, she thinks he's complicating the situation. Suddenly, Gray brings up the rumor of an ogre's nest nearby, alarming Surya's attention. He also points out that the village is completely unsafe with the lack of security guards. The Swordmaster confirms the existence of the nest as well, as it was discovered recently. At the same time, she smiles at him, believing that nothing bad will happen. If the worst case happens, they'll just have to rely on the royal capital for help. Though Gray is worried, she thinks his only focus should be to take his exam without any wandering thoughts. In his mind, he's convinced as hell that his teacher is lying to him, soothing him so that he doesn't have to worry. The royal capital is never going to send help to a tiny village, and when the village is raided and destroyed by the ogres, it will inevitably result in Sarya's brutal death. In his original life, he learned that she died taking on the battle alone. Anyway, he doesn't tell her any of this and just accepts the situation, thanking his teacher for helping him out all this time. Gray plans to leave right away, earning Sarya a smile. She and her two big personalities are rooting for him to pass. A few days later, we get a scene of her traversing a dangerous path to make her way to the nest. Here, skeletal remains of humans are horrifically hung on the trees as a warning. Sarya is trying to track down the nest using the information she received from the scout. Spotting the trail of blood ahead, she knows that danger lurks ahead. But before she does anything, the Swordmaster is alarmed by the familiar voice of her disciple. Sitting on top of the tree branch, he questions where his beloved master is headed so late at night. Receiving a surprise entrance from him, she asks what he's doing right here when he's supposed to be focusing on the academy. Sticking his landing on the ground, he taunts her for questioning him when he should be doing it to her instead. She lied to him when she said she was going to ignore the situation of the nest and let the royal capital handle it. Making an excuse, Sarya explains that the royal capital refused to come because of their personal matters, which is why she took on the job herself. She's confident in her sword ability, believing that whatever it is in that nest, she can defeat it. Especially after receiving the report of the scout, Sarya reveals that her opponent is going to be an elite ogre, and henchman monsters range about roughly 50 creatures apart from the boss. She knows fighting off the monsters will be tough because of their numbers, but it's not stopping her from going. By the way, even Gray admits that an elite ogre isn't strong, at least not enough to defeat a woman of her caliber. However, the thing about the ogres is that their unique advantage comes to their brains and overwhelming numbers. With so many of them in that nest, Sarya is definitely going to die if they manage to surround and overwhelm her. Apart from that, our boy knows one thing with absolute confidence. Because of his knowledge of his previous life, letting Sarya take on the mission alone is like sending her to her death. And in the end, the village will also be destroyed with no protector left. That's the dark future that he's already experienced before. With that in mind, the young disciple requests to team up with her. But his master isn't kind, stating that she's all good on her own. Instead of wasting time trying to convince her that she won't be enough, Gray cleverly tells her that he wants to gain real combat experience. He even goes on to guilt trip her, asking if she's afraid he'll become a burden in her path. Though he's smart, his master points out the ridiculousness of what he just said. Their skill difference is nearly identical right now, to the point that she struggles to fight him during their mock battles. Even with that fact in consideration, Sarya reminds her disciple that a real battle is much more different, especially when you account for a monstrous nest like this one. This task involves immense danger, which is the reason she doesn't want Gray to risk his life, at least not until he has more combat experience. His disciple is devastated to hear her conviction. After all, Sarya wasn't budging in her stance, so he goes for one last resort, an idea that he wants to share with his master. At first, she's surprised, until Gray straight up challenges her to a fight, promising to put her to sleep and then going on by himself to face the ogre. The situation grows tense. The disciple has just challenged his master to a real battle. His sword pointed at her, Gray awaits her response. Realizing that his student is just as stubborn as she is, Sarya admits defeat. She doesn't want him to go on alone, so she reverts to his previous suggestion of going together. All she cares about is that he returns in one piece. And yes, the one piece is real. Both of them band together and venture into the forest to confront the monsters. The night grows older, And finally, the master and the disciple discover the location of the nest. The intelligent monsters use their environment to their advantage. They made a nest that leaves no room for escape in case someone dared to venture all the way here to challenge them. Syria thinks that the creatures must be confident in their ability, while Gray argues that it's actually more of a disadvantage for the two of them, as they'll have to fight carefully. Observing from a safe distance, she's rather surprised. The boss is nowhere to be seen.